So we welcome everyone and having a good evening here. This is a workshop meeting of the Board of Education, and we are at the North End Middle School. Today is October 8th, and we're going to begin tonight with a silent prayer, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag after the silent prayer. Tonight, leading us in the pledge will be Jada Cordero. She's a 7th grade teacher right here at the North End Middle School. So a silent prayer first, please. Jada, come right up to the microphone right there, and the flags are right behind me. It's all yours.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jada. Very good. Next item on the agenda is the Committee of the Whole Principals Report. Mrs. Gilmore and staff. I think we have Joe Begnell, we have James Simpson, and we have Jen McAloon.
Good evening and welcome to North End Middle School. We're pleased to have you here this evening. I have prepared a short PowerPoint where we have students and staff participating, just to give you some insight on the daily happenings here at North End Middle School. And I just want to remind you, if you get a break during the meeting this evening, there are some projects behind you that are from our social studies classes in 7th grade, reiterating 9/11, and we also have, for Hispanic Heritage Month, we have some projects on the right from our ELA learners, and coming into the library this evening were some artwork done by our art students, so on your way out, maybe if you take a peek at those. We just wanted to give you some of the fine work that the students are doing here at North End. And as President Stango stated, my name is Jackie Gilmore. I am the building principal here at North End Middle School, entering my 2nd year as building principal. And I have Mr. Simpson, Ms. Egan, and Mr. Begnell with me. This is just a slide to basically give you a makeup of North End Middle School. We're currently at 991 students, which is about 30 students less than we did have last year. And by having 30 less students in the building, it's been giving us some breaks in the lunchroom with capacity. The hallways are running a little smoother because there's not as many kids in the building. And our class sizes, the ratio has gone down for student-teacher ratio. So we're running about 30 students less than we were last year. 60% Hispanic, 28% Black, 12% white, with a SPED population of about 22.5%, which is on the high side. We are definitely above the city average for the special ed population. For our staff, we have 101 teachers and 24 paraprofessionals that are coming into contact with those students on a daily basis. And the breakdown for teachers, years of experience, our new ones and our veterans probably are equal, about 40 in each of those categories. And the teachers that have 5 to 10 years experience, there's about half of that. So we have a good mix of new teachers and veterans, and we use the veterans to help the new teachers come along to polish their practice, give them good strategies, tips on classroom management. The new teachers we found are coming in with new exciting things to try in the classroom, so we find that they're feeding off each other very nicely. Underneath is just the courses that we offer. We're especially proud to be able to bring business and computers to all 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. That was an initiative that we worked on the last 2 years through middle school reform. because we felt that the students need to learn these lower level skills in the elementary and middle school so that once they get to high school, they're not doing keyboarding and those less intensive courses. They're able to jump into more higher tech things that they'll be needing to be college ready. So we are proud that we were able to bring that business and computer piece into the middle school. This slide shows the discipline data over the last 3 years at North End Middle School. As you can tell, we have drastically reduced our out-of-school suspension and our in-school suspensions over the last 3 years. Last year, we did have a 6.9 decrease in total suspensions. And I just wanted to point out that we did go without an in-school suspension monitor for the majority of the school year last year, and we currently are without one at this time. It's very difficult to find people to take that position. So we have to get creative with other forms of consequences for the students that are doing lower level behaviors. So this is something that we're extremely proud of. We've worked very hard to reduce these numbers, and as I go on in the presentation, you'll see some of the things that we've done to substantiate this. This is our current data as we sit this year, as opposed to the same amount of time last year. Our suspensions are down more than 50% from the same time as last school year. We have no arrests this year. This time last year, we already had 3 arrests. We did utilize the JRB civil citations this year 4 times, which kind of helped us stay out of the arrest category.
Great.
So that work, along with our prevention team and the SRO that we have assigned to our building, who is phenomenal, has really helped us make some big gains in this area. As I mentioned before, we have a prevention team that I would put up against anybody in the city. They are highly functioning. They are embedded in the daily grind in the school. They meet every week, same time, same day, every week. They take minutes and agendas, and their work is very hands-on. They develop action plans for students in crisis. They identify students that are in crisis, whether it's academically, behaviorally, attendance-wise. They create groups based on those needs. We have anger groups. We have grief counseling groups going on, coping skills. During these meetings, when the administrators are there, also they report on the progress of students, and they strategize ways to improve academics, behavior, and attendance for students. This is one of the real reasons why we are able to be so successful with our suspension numbers, because we have a team of people working. They pair up with other staff, and they really get into why the behaviors are happening, why students are being misbehaving, why they're out of school. So I'm very, very proud of this team. One thing that the team does do is look at the Swiss data, and that's all the information on our referrals. Where are they being written up? Where are students being written up? What times of day? What days during the week? By grade level, by period. And by looking at this data and disaggregating it, we came up with, last year, our biggest area of focus where students were getting in the most trouble was right in the morning when they were entering school. So we brought it to the prevention team, and we tried to figure out, why are we getting write-ups between 10 of 8 and 8:15 so much? The school year is just starting. So what we decided was a lot of the conflict and the issues with students and staff was over dress code, kids not being ready to start the day. Some issue may have happened at home or on the bus, and they're coming in, and the first thing we're saying is get your hat off, get your hoodie off, get into class. So we kind of re-examined that over the summer, and with the help of the prevention team and the PBIS team that we have here, we decided that we needed to address this issue. So what we came up with is being RAM ready. And what does it mean to be RAM ready? We're the Rams here at North End. So when you're RAM ready, the electronics, cell phone are off, put away, you're in complete dress code, Your hoodies are in your locker, you're prepared for class, and your headphones are away. So when I do morning announcements at the end, after we go through our daily spiel, I'll ask everybody, are you RAM ready? Make sure you're RAM ready. And that's the signal that kids need to have all of this stuff handled, and then they start their day. And we have noticed, just with a quick review of our write-ups, that these behaviors have diminished in that time frame that we targeted. So we think we're on the right track with that specific strategy. As I did mention before, we do have a PBIS team. We have 2 phenomenal co-chairs, staff people that have really taken this on as another job. And we have 25 staff members that are regular people at these meetings. So we feel like the more that we have invested in the teachers, the more successful we are. They meet twice a month to review data and to also plan events and rewards for the students who are behaving properly. Our RAMS rule is respect, attitude, motivation, and success. And if you ask any student in the morning, they'll hear me saying that, and they could probably say to you what exactly it means to be respectful, have a good attitude, be motivated, and be successful. Just a couple of things that we do through the PBIS committee. We give out super tickets to students and staff. They get a small classroom reward. We do school-wide rewards such as the holiday dance, the carnival, field trips, and ice cream social. We do Student of the Month recognition, which is actually our first one is tomorrow. They get to have breakfast with me in the morning and their pictures taken and put on the in-house cameras. We have Staff of the Week that is given a trophy in the parking spot next to me in the front. So they appreciate that. And our biggest reward is our top 100 students in North End. And that happens in May, and we do a breakfast for their families. And the students that are picked for the top 100 are just not students that are first honors or never behave. We look at a lot of different things. Are they good citizens? Do they help out their classmates? Do they have good attendance? Do they have other extracurricular activities that they do here? So it's just not your smartest students, and we're particularly proud of that because sometimes kids that are not getting the A's in class are not recognized, so we want to make sure that we're recognizing students for all of their achievements, just not academics. Here's just a couple of pictures. This is our our holiday celebration. That's our breakfast for our top 100 students. And here is one of our Students of the Month who has his certificate there and his picture on. We did develop a team this year for chronic absenteeism, the CAT team. And it's very similar and works very similar to our prevention team, and most of the members that are on the prevention team are on the CAT team. We are making sure that we keep both separate so that they can function on their own. And the one thing that we do with the CAT team is just talk about chronic absenteeism. So we did meet today, our second meeting of the school year. And looking at our data, we do have a lot of students that are in the chronic absenteeism column at this time because we feel like there's so many little days in school already that we feel like once we get them more in school that they'll drop out of that. Some of the strategies that we're utilizing this year, phone calls home and home visits, including positive phone calls, which we feel that we haven't done enough of. Usually we're calling home to tell the parent that the student is not in school. We're going to try to spin that around a little and do positive ones, like, your student made it 8 out of the 10 days. That's a big improvement. So we're going to try to approach it through the positive way. We have check-in and check-out with our social workers and guidance counselors. And one of the other areas that we felt was really important is making that connection with an adult or another student in the building. So what we've done is identified our most chronically absent students, and we've given them a cheerleader per se. It's either a teacher or a student that they've identified as someone that they care about. So we make sure that that teacher or that student checks every morning to make sure that student is in and say, thank you, I'm glad to see you, I'm glad you're here today. So We're getting a lot of positive feedback, as we discussed at the meeting today. Students that we are talking to about chronic absenteeism are really excited about having someone just checking in on them when they get to school today, in the morning. School-wide incentives we're doing, homerooms, the homeroom that has the best attendance for the month gets an award. So we have that established throughout all 3 houses. Students are making contracts promising that they'll be here. And we're deeply embedded through our SRO and our parent liaison, Rebecca Harmon, with a lot of community agencies. We utilize PAL, the Waterbury Youth Service, the YMCA, Girls Inc., DCF, and well more to help our efforts with chronic absenteeism. Okay, well, I lost that. I don't know what happened there, unfortunately. But at this time, I'd like Mr. Bagnall to bring up one of his students, and he'll talk a little bit about the project we did.
Yes, right now I'd like to call up the student that gave us the Pledge of Allegiance, Jada Cordero, and Ms. Pizzuto, the 7th grade social studies teacher.
Did he want us to go?
Right here's good. Again, Ms. Gilmore spoke briefly on the 911 projects that we did, and I have to tell you, if you get a chance to go back and look at them, they are very, very creative. The kids did an outstanding job. This is one here. This is Jada's. Go ahead, Jada, you could start off. Show us how it's. It lights up. When the lights are off, it looks pretty cool. And they designed it all themselves. Like I said, please take a look. They came out great.
Thank you. So the assignment was just to create a collage or a model or a diorama just explaining about September 11th after we learned about it. And they were told to be creative, anything they wanted to do, come up with it themselves. So gave them I didn't make anything for them to really hold them back. So whatever they wanted to do. So this is what Jada made, which is so awesome. I wish you could see it with the lights.
We're trying to get that video. I don't want to try to turn the lights off.
My name is Jada. My inspiration.
Mr. Bagnall, why don't you hand her the microphone?
Sure. Uh-oh. You got a show now.
My inspiration for this project, the New York City skyline, is that the night before 9/11, everything was regular. The Twin Towers stood as they normally did. No one could even begin to predict the tragedies that would occur on the next day.
So she just showed the skyline while it was still the skyline, the beautiful skyline. If we can get a chance at some point to turn the lights off, you could see it's beautiful.
And what she did on the back was she attached these little lights, that was very clever, to light up the skyline in the front. So it was a pretty unique idea. So we're very proud of her. And the rest too.
Thank you, Jada. At this time, I'm going to call up Ms. Katie Torres, who is our reading coach, our English and Language Arts coach here at North End, and she's going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in our instructional data teams here at North End.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to share a few moments with you this evening. I am a district literacy facilitator, and I serve North End Middle School. Before I took this position last year, I taught here as an 8th grade ELA teacher for 11 years, and I'm also proud to note that I am a North End graduate, and I truly cherish every day that I get to give back to the school and the community which gave me so much. I can tell you from personal experience that we have never been so organized, so focused, and so aligned in this building and across the district as we are right now in ELA. We have systems in place, structures in place to build teacher capacity, promote student-led classrooms, revise curriculum, and monitor the fidelity of its implementation. Teachers are supported, students are challenged and engaged, administrators are instructional leaders. This is the foundation for student success. We are preparing our students for jobs, many of which haven't been created yet. Jobs that will require collaboration, creative thinking, critical thinking, and persistence. Our instruction is focused on developing these important skills and aligned, progressively developing deep understanding of the connection between effort and achievement. Students are working toward an end-of-year portfolio based on SBAC claims and academic behaviors. And these are the essential questions that we relate all of the work that we do in ELA to. So there's a reading question, writing, speaking and listening, research, and then an academic behavior essential question. Students include self-reflections with every piece of work they enter into this end-of-year portfolio, a true reflection and action platform. Teachers assess students with an academic behaviors rubric, which clearly outlines behavioral expectations, including coming to class prepared, following directions, applying a self-reflective perspective to learning, tracking progress toward specific goals, and following group norms for collegial discussions. Students are making connections between every strategy used, every question asked, every text read, and they're linking it to the broader learning goals every single day. Teachers are crafting questions and tasks that are aligned not only to the letter and spirit of the standards, but also to SBAC and SAT STEMs. 6th graders are actually preparing for the SAT right now. They are using speech that is sophisticated as teachers are modeling the use of academic vocabulary into conversations, questions, and tasks every day. Students are currently reading mandatory grade level texts written into the curriculum that celebrate Hispanic culture in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month. And we will continue to build in culturally responsive texts into all of our units so that all students can make connections and feel valued. We are also helping students build experience navigating and analyzing digital texts, a skill that they will need in the technologically advanced world of the future, and quite frankly, a skill that they need now when they're taking the Smarter Balanced assessments. We are building in student choice and widening the way we deliver material and assess students so that our curriculum meets the needs and interests of our diverse student body. This year, 3 of the literacy teachers at North End now join me in pushing into classrooms and supporting teachers in planning instruction that is rigorous, aligned to the curriculum, and aligned to the instructional plan created during weekly instructional data team meetings. The day after IDT meetings, we visit teachers, making sure that they understand the next steps. We make appointments to spend time in classrooms and plan instruction with teachers. Teachers then bring lesson strategies and student work to share at these meetings, and we are in the process of uploading these to the district Google Drive to share with ELA teachers across the district. The goal is to create alignment and cohesion. When students transfer schools within the district, they can make a seamless transition as all ELA teachers are focusing on the same standards, same strategies, same core texts, same essential questions, and same academic behavior expectations. We are proud of how much we have learned and implemented this year, and we are excited to continue learning and working toward our long-term goals in the years moving forward. Waterbury students are getting an education in ELA that is rigorous, responsive, and aligned to district and state goals. This is because we have great teachers, supportive administrators, and an ELA department leader who has not only vision, but an action plan. It is truly exciting to be a part of this district-wide systemic change. Thank you for your time this evening.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Right.
Thank you, Katie. Most of you understand this, that a school is more than its numbers and its data. What goes on here on a daily basis is more than that. So we wanted to share a couple of specific stories of things that we feel capture the heart of North End. Most of you know that we did experience a tragedy to begin the school year. Most of you understand how hard it is for teachers and staff to undergo such a hard thing and explain it to students. I've never been more proud, and I could talk for my colleagues, my administrators as well, to be part of a school community that we have had since September. It really showed the heart of our staff and our students to come together to support each other during this most difficult time. So I'd like to bring up the Gold House staff who was most directly impacted by this tragedy to talk about what they have done to turn it into something positive for our students here at North End.
You can introduce us if you want.
Hi, my name is Marie McDermott. This is Jen Rosa, Jess Lanza, Amy Pearl, and Kelly Munoz. And we're going to let Jen start.
I'm actually going to start us off. Alex's mission actually stemmed from a lesson that we had at the beginning of the school year where we had our students create mission statements, which ended up being like their long-term goals for this school year that they are going to be working on all year. And this kind of, it was like the lesson that inspired like the rest of what we're going to talk about tonight.
So Alex's mission was this. My mission for this year at North End Middle School is to be a well-mannered student who is always accomplishing his work. Also, I'd like to join activities and different sports in school. I will reach my goal by writing notes, asking for help from my teachers, and studying at home. To achieve my goal, I will train and practice every day after school with my friends and teammates. We felt that because Alex's goal could be applied to so many different types of students, whether they were academics or athletes or kids working on having better behavior or trying new things, that it was important to display this in each of our classes. So we actually, all of us have this hanging on the walls in our rooms to remind the kids every day that Alex's mission can live on through them, through their actions, through their choices.
So as their teachers, we wanted to do something to show that we're all in this together, and we threw around a couple of ideas, and what we came up with were bracelets, and the bracelets say Alex's mission. We didn't tell the students that we got them. We waited until after the funeral, which was a hard day for everybody, and then we handed them out to them the next day. We brought them in here. Am I talking about that one or you? Okay, I'll let Jess go.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk about the kids' response. It was phenomenal. The kids' positivity and the resilience was amazing. They were so proud to wear these bracelets that we all wear on our wrists on a daily basis. Our students were more brave and stoic than any of us could have ever imagined. Their strength allowed teachers and students to put up a united front, and we were there to support each other. We came together under unfortunate circumstances and created a bond that will last a lifetime. We will truly never forget these students.
All right, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to introduce two of our own students, and they're going to read their own personal student missions. So Aubrey Pender and Nichelle Lassiter.
My mission is to become a standout among all other 8th grade students, both athletically and academically, with the help of my family, peers, and the North End Middle School administrators. I will complete all assignments to the best of my ability using all knowledge and problem-solving skills I have to offer, while working hard after school to be an exemplary and outstanding athlete.
As a student of North End Middle School, my mission is to be promoted to my starting year of high school from the ending year of middle school while working with my peers, teachers, principals, and family. Good grades will continuously be earned due to attentiveness, ongoing studying, attendance, meeting due dates, and following all rules while growing and becoming more responsible.
I just want to say it was a little difficult for some of us to talk about it still. Today marks the 1-month anniversary. What we did with the bracelets is we're selling them in the school for anybody who wants them. We're selling them for $1 a piece, and then we're going to put together, we're throwing around ideas, but I think what we're going to do is a scholarship in Alex's name that we're going to use here at the school.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next special piece is our Washington trip. 3 years ago, a couple of teachers approached Mr. LaRusso, who was the building principal at the time, and talk about reinstituting the famous trip to D.C. that all the 8th graders used to be able to take years ago, many moons ago. This was a rite of passage in 8th grade. So he said, reluctantly, he agreed. So we got teachers involved, and we have had 2 successful trips to D.C. The last 2 years, with another one planned for this May, and we have actually increased it to another full day for the same price. So we have a lot of teachers working hard. But when we were there in May, something very special happened. I'm going to ask Amy Pearl to come up, who was a chaperone on that trip, to discuss it.
Hello. So last year was my first year on the trip. It was a wonderful experience. One of our tour guides last year came up with a great idea to have the students write thank you for your service letters to veterans. The kids were really excited. They worked really hard on them. And later on that day, when we were out walking around through all the memorials, they were able to actually hand them out to veterans that they saw out on the street, and it was really powerful. A lot of the veterans were noticeably very appreciative, also very emotional. There was one Vietnam veteran in particular that really expressed his gratitude and emotion right there in front of the kids. One Army veteran actually sent an email as a thank you letter to Mr. Delacalce, who pretty much runs the trip here at DC, just expressing how much it touched him. And did you want to read the letter to everybody for people that can't see?
Hi, my name is Mr. Bayo, and I've been going to the trip for 3 years, and it's a great experience going every year. This is a letter. I am captain in the United States Army and recently graduated from a uniformed service University of Health Sciences in Bethesda, Maryland. The university is closely affiliated with the famed Walter Reed Hospital and is on the same military base in Bethesda. I am now a resident in orthopedic surgery at Tripler Army Medical Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. I have the honor of treating wounded soldiers and their family members that travel to us from all across the globe. It's one of the most challenging and rewarding careers imaginable. The day before my graduation in Washington, D.C., one of your students stopped me on the street and gave me a letter to a soldier with a kind note inside. I wanted to let you and your students know that I appreciated the note and am grateful to have supported civilians that, regardless of their political opinions, support the troops. I hope that your students will also consider the great opportunities that the military has to offer them if they are willing to challenge themselves physically and mentally on a daily basis. Best regards, Mitchell Harris, MD, Captain.
Wow. And so basically, this is not something that our students could learn in the classroom. Just to have the opportunity to interact face-to-face with the veterans, it really instilled in them the respect and admiration for these veterans that they couldn't have learned through a textbook or a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
And finally, we have our Unified Sports Program. For those of you that don't know what Unified Sports is, we started the program 5 years ago with the collaborative efforts of Mary Colgan and Elaine Crane, both 2 staff members who I have here this evening. They put a team together, pairing disabled and non-disabled students together, and they participate in various sporting events, basketball, soccer, just to name a few. And during the past 2 years, we have finished in the top 5 for the Connecticut schools, and last year we received the Spirit of Life Award. I'm just going to have Ms. Crane come up with her students.
No one's ever let me use a microphone before. I'm so excited. And they probably never will again, but that's all right. I want to first introduce one of our athletes. This is Malia Parker. And this is one of our partners. Yes, in crime, Leon Crespo. And then we have Mary Cogan, our coach, and Mr. Tansley, our other coach. I just supplied the students. My athletic ability is 0. I give them the raw materials to work with, and they shape and form them into what you see here today. Right, Malia? All right.
She will give us some.
That's right. Okay, we participate, we are the only middle school in the district currently in Waterbury that's participating at this time. All the high schools have a program now. We are the only middle school that currently has a program, which is unfortunate because we can't play each other like the high schools do. So we have to travel to tournaments. And we do volleyball. No, we can't. No, we can't volleyball. Yeah, let's not go there. Soccer. Basketball.
My favorite.
Basketball is your favorite. Soccer, basketball, bowling is my favorite.
Not mine.
I know, but it is mine. And it's just been an awesome experience, especially for our partners who really have had not a lot of experience working with our students. And it's been great. We practice during our prep periods, and then our meets are after school. You don't have a prep period, honey.
That's tomorrow, classes.
Right. We have practice tomorrow. Yes, B&D day. Feel free when you have your break. There's some pictures of tournaments that we've been to, the trophies that we have. Every year we go to the Michaels Cup Awards and we nominate a student, partner, and an athlete. We go to a lovely dinner at the AquaTurf, which is that the bomb or what? You guys didn't get to go yet, but it is so much fun, and it's so great to see the kids outside the school setting and to have that rapport and that relationship with them. It really is a good time. Our biggest problem is financing because we do all our fundraising. When we first started, CIAC gave us a little, seed money, but that's been the hardest part at a middle school level. Thank you, Mr. Baldwin, who isn't here, the athletic director at Wilby, who's gotten us busing so many times that we've been very appreciative for. But it's just been such an awesome experience. I know I've worked in the city of Waterbury for 38 years. Yeah. Would you like to tell them how old I am and how much I weigh too while you're at it? Giving away all my secrets here. And this by far is my favorite thing to do. So please look at the pictures and the trophies, and we have our banner. It's just a great time. All right, thank you very much. Did anybody else want to say anything? No?
Just one thing on that. We did receive some funding from Mr. Schwartz and the City of Waterbury, Dr. Willett, so thank you very much.
So we spoke about attendance, behavior, academics, athletics. We do have some really exciting music news. We have an outstanding band here at North End, as some of you may have heard Mr. Sanavasi and his band at several things during the school year. But they were selected as the finalists for the CABE convention this year, and they will be playing at the Wolf Pack and the Bridgeport Sound Tigers game again this year. They did do that last year, and we were very proud. There is a YouTube video that I don't know if we're going to be able to get up working, but they are phenomenal. And he's also did reach out to the feeder elementary school, Bucks Hill, and he is doing a bridge there with them. They're doing a literacy function on the 30th, and his band will be down there playing for the parents and students of Bucks Hill, hopefully to get some interest so that when the students do feeding to us in 6th grade, they do have a love of music and we can continue on with our band. And on the other side of our vocal chorus, which we just implemented 2 years ago, 14 of our students auditioned for the Waterbury Youth Chorus, and they were all accepted into that program. So they will be joining students across the city to be in that chorus. So we're very proud of that as well. And finally, I'd like to bring up our parent liaison, Rebecca Harmon, who will speak to you a little bit about our parents and our community involvement.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Harmon, and I want to introduce a parent. We're going to talk about the Enlightening the Mind book club. This is a parent who's been with the book club for 3 years. This will be the 3rd year.
Good evening. My name is Alexandra. I am a parent participant in the Enlightening the Mind book club here at North End. My daughter also attends. Her name is Eloisa, and she is present here today as well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you, to share the benefits that we've had and experienced because of this book club. I would like to say that the benefits, I would group them in 2 different categories, academic and social. Academically, I would say at home, it helps us reinforce what she learns in school, and that directly transfers with what she's learning in school. For example, when we read a book, I ask her to give me the main idea of a paragraph, or the main idea of a chapter, or the main idea of the book. We have discussions, and oftentimes there are topics that these books present that I actually can think of another opportunity when we would discuss these topics if it weren't for these books that we're reading. Or at least we would not discuss them in the same way that we are. Some of the other things that we've worked on at home that I know directly transfers into her success in school, especially in the language arts, in reading and writing, is when we express our concerns or our opinions about the books, I ask her to support those opinions with details from the books. And when I attended open house this year, it was explained to us the new curriculum that is being put into place, and one of the main goals that I'm aware of is developing critical thinking. So I think many of the strategies that we are doing at home because of the book club and because of the books that we're reading are directly transferring and supporting her in developing her critical thinking skills. The other piece that is a benefit to us is the social benefit. The book club is not just a one-time meeting once a month. You're actually preparing the whole entire month so that when you come to the meeting, you are prepared to participate in the activities that they have. And so when we show up for the monthly meeting, there is camaraderie, there is a sense of community. We get to share what we learned through the book at home. You get to share that with others outside of our home, which I can think of another opportunity that we would have where we would share these opinions, concerns with other people. So that's another huge benefit for us. Some of the activities that we've done in the book club include things like, if you were the main character in the book, what would you do in this situation? Or if you were one of the other characters in the book, how would you support the main character in the book? Things like that. We've done interactive, interpretive activities. We've done electronic activities, hands-on, all kinds of things. And in addition, there is a dinner, so it's a family environment. You have the parents, you have the children all together. And the other thing is, I can think of another opportunity where I would discuss certain things with my daughter if it weren't for the book club. just certain topics that come up. So the book club offers us the opportunity to be able to discuss things in the way that otherwise I wouldn't think we would have. So there was a lot of learning going on as well. It supports her learning, it supports my learning. I can't think of another opportunity when we would read the same books. Normally we don't. This is the only opportunity that we have to read the same books. So it's fun. We look forward to coming every month. We look forward to getting the books and reading them and being ready. We know our responsibilities for when we have to show up for the meetings. The sit-down dinner that we have with people that, again, that we don't know and we would not have met if it weren't for the club, people from the community. And we're sitting down together with them and having these meals and having these conversations that I cannot think of any other opportunity when we would be able to do things like that. So I would personally like to thank the Wilby Culinary Arts Program for making the meals for us. They do a wonderful job. The meal is delicious. We look forward to that every time. And I'd like to also thank Mrs. Harmon, Mrs. Hinton, and Miss Albert. They are the facilitators of the book club, and they're always there. They're creating the activities. They're guiding us through the whole process. So it's been a real joy. I look forward to starting again this year, this month. And thank you very much for your time.
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about Naviance. The unique thing about North End and Wilby sharing some common areas is that it allows us to collaborate together, and it makes a much nicer transition for the kids that move on through North End and on up to Wilby. The book club is just one example where they get to meet students. There's 20 students from North End and 20 from Wilby, so by the time they get to Wilby, they already know a few people. We're doing a Naviance training for parents that again is combining North End and Wilby. Naviance is the program that they will be doing from 6th grade up through 12th grade, so it's a nice way again to transition. And we're having a daytime training this month, and then over here at North End we'll be doing an evening one at Wilby later in the year. And the other thing I was asked to talk about was the School Governance Council. North End is one of the schools that has a School Governance Council. We've had a huge transition this year. We had a very active council last year, and a lot of our parents had stayed from 6th grade, were voted in a second time, and now their children moved on to the high school. So we had a huge turnover with our parents. We just did the elections, so we're just getting things started up again. In the past, we've done monthly activities. Their goal was parent involvement and to increase that, and so we did things with multicultural potluck dinners. We did movie nights that tied into the books that they were reading in the curriculum in the school. We did a Zumba night, just to get people to feel that school is a fun and exciting place to be, and that you can take some of the things that we do here home and continue the learning there.
That concludes our presentation. I'm sorry it went a little longer than expected. I just want to take a moment just to thank all of my staff. If they would just stand. I appreciate you coming out tonight and supporting our school. And thank you for listening. If you have any questions for me or my administration or my teachers, feel free.
Thank you, Mrs. Gilmore. It's always great to come to North End. We never know what to expect, and you know, this meeting has been emotionally draining and also exhilarating if we can do that on both sides of the aisle, and I think that's great, and I appreciate that coming from you.
Thank you.
And your staff. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we've been here since you've been the principal?
Correct.
Yeah, well, very good, and wish you luck on that, and congratulations, and everything seems to be going great. Your staff certainly seems to be supportive, and we appreciate them coming out and having their input.
As do I.
And we also welcome Mrs. Egan, who was not here the last time we were here.
No. She did
And
start with us, though, as a 7th grade science teacher, so she's come home, so
She's
it's a
come
nice,
home- come
she's a
home
nice
to
addition
roost.
back to the,
Right.
back to the building.
Well, that's good. I would like to hear these people that come back, like the literacy facilitator who came back. And that's great. It's always great to hear
That's
that.
because North End's a great place to be.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. All right, now open it up to the board if they have any comments or questions. Commissioner Tom Van Stone?
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. No questions, just some comments. Very positive, so I thank you for that. I know you got the slide out of the way early with discipline, which actually is somewhat positive. You've had some good results so far this year. You're doing a lot of good things here. And it's surprising, having Mr. Banknell on the staff, that you could move forward so well, but Joe knows I'm kidding. There's a lot of good things I saw, and it's nice. I love the way you start your day. I think that's extremely positive. Anything could happen before a kid walks through your doors.
Right.
He could feel terrible that he maybe yelled at mom before he left, or dad, anything on a school bus or whatever. So I think that's a real nice thing that you're doing to start the day. The 9/11 thing touched home with me quite a bit. Fortunately, I was able to welcome home my brother-in-law from that awful day in American history. Many families were not able to do what I did. So it touched me a bit when I saw that you make sure they recognize those types of day in our history. So I appreciate that. And then you brought out the 3 things. As far as keeping Alex in everyone's heart, you're doing a great job. That was really touching when you guys spoke about that. That was great. And then, of course, you touched on something very special to me, and that's when you interact sports with our special students, I think you're doing a lot for a lot of people, and I think you're touching people that never thought they could be touched. I would love to get your schedule. I tell each high school that has its teams now to please send me your schedules. I would love to get to some of your events, and we need to reach out maybe to make it a little easier for you folks to have some other teams to compete with. I'm sure they're out there. Yeah. And that's really special when you guys put together programs like that. So there's a lot of positive, and I call it the 95%ers. 95% of our kids are coming to school, and they may not be the perfect student, but you know what? They're not giving you a headache either. So I'm glad you really emphasized your 95%ers, because those are the kids that, we have to take a time out sometime and realize that, they're there also. We concentrate sometimes too much on the negative. And your presentation certainly was a positive one. So I appreciate it, and you're doing good work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Hernandez.
I agree with Commissioner Van Stone, but in your presentation, you gave great respect to your SRO. Who is he or she? I should.
Matt Acasio, and prior to him, this is his first year with us, was Rob Davis, who was also a big contributor to our numbers going down.
Okay, so kudos to them. And you also gave a good shout out to your preventive team. Are they here by any chance?
Our parent liaison, who's part of that prevention team, is here, as well as... No.
They're gone?
No, they're not here.
Okay,
They're not here
that's
this evening.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm glad you have such a great team of people behind you to assist you in what you're accomplishing here.
Thank you.
Nothing but positive things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Vice President Harvey?
Yep. Well, let me start with when I walked in the door, was very positive. The atmosphere here. There were 2 or 3 students that before I even got to the door, they opened the door for me. They didn't have to do that. They said hello. So it just gave me, it's just the atmosphere was just very, very positive. So I compliment you on that. During your presentation, I also want to talk about the prevention team. I'm always concerned about the arrests in our district and kids, middle school age, et cetera, being arrested. And I was looking at the North End Middle School numbers. A few years back, I was very concerned. But I like what the prevention team does. I think that's great, and I think that's where we have to go, is analyzing the numbers, looking at ways that we can reach these kids, because we don't know what's going on in the home. And they step off the bus, some of them, they're angry, and they're just angry because they're angry, and things that may have happened in the household and things of that nature. And we have to realize that in this district. So I compliment you and your staff, and Joe and I have known each other for years, for that, for recognizing that that's what we need to do. I also compliment you on recognizing that we need the parents behind us on this. We can't do this by ourselves. And I'm not going to ask you for numbers, but I just want to say that I want you to continue to work to include our parents. That is a work that's always in progress, okay? And we need to make sure that we have their involvement. It was very touching, the 911 presentation, and also Alex. That was, as a Facebook, I'm not a fanatic, but I saw what was on Facebook, and I'm happy to hear that you've included the students in and let them express themselves in that regard, because that's probably the first incident that they will have of losing a friend that close. So I really was touched by that. So doing positive things here, continue to do it, and just kudos to your staff, to you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you again. Thank you. This is Gilmore and staff. Very good. Moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, Committee on Finance. Request approval of the revised authorized signatures change for the ED 099 agreement for child nutrition programs. We're going to need a consensus on this tonight, and we have Ms. Franzese.
Good evening.
Francis. Ms. Francis.
Thank you. So Adam and I are here this evening to ask for a revision on the authorized signature change
Where's the
form. To ask for.
Ms. Francis, could you use the mic, please? Thank you. A
Sorry
little bit
about
of
that.
disruption in the back.
Adam and I are here this evening to ask for a revision to the authorized signature change form, to have Mr. Guidon removed and to have Mr. Miller added. This is for our monthly reimbursement claim from the state. Is there any questions?
Okay, Commissioners, you have that in your backup. It's relatively clear. Any questions on that? Okay.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you for coming out again.
Thank you.
Item number 3 on the agenda, Committee on Policy, request approval of a revision to the Administration on Medications Policy, number 5141.21. And I think Elaine's not here, but we have Lois Mulhern. She's a supervisor of nurses. Is Lois here? No?
It's actually 3 words.
Oh, that's a change, you mean? Okay, well, that's in your backup also, people. If you have any questions on that, we will clarify them. The next item on the agenda is the Committee on Policy. Request approval. Did that. Next committee, the next items are item 4, 5, and 6, and they all regard to the school security contracts that are in place, or almost in place. And we have Bruce from O&G and Mr. Herman.
Evening.
Evening.
Item 4, request approval of an agreement with Security Plus Northeast LLC to furnish and install lockdown buttons at various schools, and this is funded by the Security Grant 2. Okay, Mr. Herman.
It is, it's a grant to make make the schools immediately respond to a lockdown threat, and we've identified a way to do that with this grant, utilizing mostly existing equipment in the schools, but this particular program provides, this particular item provides a program and a pre-recorded message. And it also sends out a phone dialer to law enforcement.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on that number 4? Commissioner Brown?
Yes, good evening. I was wondering, does that system, can you use it for other purposes besides just the emergencies?
It's not, to my knowledge, it's not designed for that because it sends one specific message.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Commissioner Hernandez?
Have you identified the schools, or is it going to be all schools?
It's going to be all schools, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Commissioner Tom Van Stone?
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. I'm a little worried that we only had 2 bids, first off. And I guess we don't have the generic rule that 2 or less bids, we put it back out, apparently, because it's coming for us. But the difference in the 2 bids is like we're bidding on different contracts, different RFPs. So that worries me quite a bit that one or the other or both did not understand this RFP. There's a difference of $500,000 between the 2 bids. How could that possibly be?
I would because I don't have an answer for it.
When this specific scope of work was put out to bid, there was a mandatory pre-bid meeting in which you had to attend in order to submit a bid. I believe we had 4 or 5 bidders attend that meeting. The result of the bids, obviously, we received 2 bids. We scoped out the low bid, and he understood the scope. He had everything that was required of him for that scope. Further discussions with the highest bidder, we found out that they made some assumptions on their part that they would be required to come in with PA system vendors and fire alarm system vendors to make the system work. That is not the case. The engineer was very specific in researching the existing schools and making sure that this lockdown worked with the existing equipment in the schools. And that's what we found to be the largest disparity between the low bid and the highest bid. We also met with Rocco Orso to make sure that because we had such a large disparity that, you know, could we continue with the low bid, seeing as how we had a mandatory pre-bid. Several of the bidders just did not want to get involved for whatever reason. And he felt after the scope review that we were in good shape to move forward with the low bidder.
Okay. I have to say I'm a little worried here. First off, was the high bidder given a second chance to rebid?
No.
Doesn't work that way, no.
No.
I typically wouldn't, but this is a big disparity.
Correct.
I'm very worried that this company, I mean, even if you look at the next bid we're going to talk about on the agenda, matter of fact, the high bid was the low bid when you look at the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Same company.
Yep.
And all those bids were pretty much a pretty straight line, even though you obviously had the high, you had the low.
Correct.
I don't know if we had 5 or 6. I forget what we have on the next one.
Yep.
You could see that competing companies were in line
Correct.
with that bidding.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you had some big companies on that list, too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'm extremely worried that just saying we're going to go to this low bid because the rules of the city say that these were the 2 bids, they're the ones that came in on time. I'm waiting for the day where someone's back in front of us asking for more money because we have wires hanging out of the wall and there's absolutely no way we're going to be able to fix the problem. We're not going to get the job done properly, and it's a very serious set of work that we need done here. This is not changing one fluorescent light bulb. This is very serious work. And I'm extremely concerned that we are not not you guys, I think you guys are, your hands are tied a little bit here, that as the city, and now on us, that we're not doing our due diligence to make sure that this bid was truly understood. I'm very worried about this bid. Our history of saying we accept bids, not necessarily in education, because we actually have a pretty good track record, but as city as a whole, are really an embarrassment. So I really think, I'm not comfortable right now with saying that this low bid is the guy we should go with. This is, I really think we need to relook at this. I can't believe two companies doing the same line of work could be, I mean, we're talking $60,000 to almost $600,000. I mean, we're not talking $80,000 and $100,000.
That's correct. That's correct.
I can't believe two companies doing the same business could be that far apart. I get it, they thought they had some bad assumptions.
Yes, he did.
That's a lot of bad assumptions.
That's correct.
And then when we're going to turn the page to the next one, they're now the low bidder. I got to tell you, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pass this. I have a lot of concerns that this is going down a road with a company, not the work, that, and I also note that we have never done business with them.
Correct. We did check.
I guess we got some references, but
That's correct.
typically a reference is someone I know that's going to give me a good reference. We don't typically, I'm sure they didn't put down any references where they did bad work.
Correct.
So I'm very concerned that, and I don't know if we have a timetable on when we need this done. Is there any of the Sandy Hook laws that came out of Hartford that are going to force us to have this done by a certain date
June 30th.
June 30th.
of next year?
2016.
We have to have it by law?
That is correct.
Yeah, I figured there had to be some attachment there.
correct.
I'm concerned. And what is the timetable for getting the work done?
This, I would have to, 1 second. There is a contract limit identified in here, 180 days.
So, all right, so 6 months.
That's correct.
So we, as long as we give them a good start, we still have a couple months that we could take a look at this.
Correct.
It sounds like, we have to be started by the first of the year, obviously, right?
Pretty much.
I have a lot of concerns. I think we really, I always come here trusting your judgments on who we pick and all, but this one just jumped out at me that something's not right here. Something's not right. I would love to find out, and Rocco knows more rules than any of us when it comes to bidding. But this one really worries me. And I don't see me, I don't know what we'll do as a group, but I don't see any way that I could vote yes on this. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, anything further on number 4? Okay, Bruce, I hear the concern.
Understood.
Can you refer this and talk with Rocco or so? And
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure you did, and he is on board with it, and he understands the discrepancy and why. And maybe if you could explain the discrepancy a little bit further. All right.
That's fine.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
That's fine.
Thank you. All right, moving on to number 5. Is Committee on School and Facilities and Grounds request approval of an agreement with Electronic Security and Control Systems to furnish and install video surveillance systems at various schools. And this is also funded by the Security Grant 2.
Yes, it is, Mr. President. It's a continuation of adding updated and upgraded video systems in schools that were not covered under the first grant and the first part of our process. It's this particular one covers 6 schools.
Okay. All right. Now, questions, concerns on that? Okay, moving on then to number 6. Committee on School Facilities and Grounds requests approval of an agreement with MA&M Incorporated, doing business as Aresco Construction Company, to furnish and install entrances and vestibules at various schools, and this is also funded by Security Grant 2, and Mr. Herman and Bruce. Again.
Yes, what this does is it constructs secure vestibules in these schools, and a secure vestibule is basically a second set of doorways, so that a visitor to the school would have to pass through 2 locked doorways after receiving or after being vetted by the school staff. It's a preventative measure to make it to basically harden the schools as a potential target.
All right, discussion on that? Questions? Vice President Harvey?
Thank you. Just wondering how, maybe it's a process that I'm asking for, but our after-school programs, would that necessitate someone having to be in the office or whatever all the time if a school has an after-school program?
We are still working on the policy for after-school programs, Commissioner.
Okay.
Our biggest concern is obviously when the children are in school during the normal school hours, where you have the highest potential vulnerability.
Got it. Okay. Well, let me know, though, because my concern is, I realize that, the after-school program is not as, I'm not going to say as important, but that's when we find our most breaches, I think, after school, keeping the door open, no one in the office to open the doors, that sort of thing. So I just would like to know how we're going to
No, I understand, and I'm not trying, my statement was not meant to minimize activities that occur after school.
Okay.
But we're trying to focus on our first group, but we are incorporating that as our plan is vetted and unrolls.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is Committee Number 8, Committee on Finance, requests approval of the Alliance District School Buildings Grant Program application. Mr. Cross? No? Number 7?
Number 7, yeah.
Oh.
7.
Okay. That's okay. It's also Mr. Cross. Request approval of agreement of All-State Construction Incorporated for boiler replacements at Wendell Cross and Bucks Hill School.
Yes, this is a continuation of the projects we've been working on. We've replaced several of these boilers. These 2 are secondary boilers. They're needed on design days. If it's, 0 degrees out, these are the boilers that kick in. They're well beyond their life expectancy. They presently leak. So this is a replacement, and we take the old one out, put the new ones in, and they should be good for another 25 years.
Okay. Questions? Commissioner Brown, then Commissioner Hernandez.
Good evening. I just had a question. We are looking at renovations, new school construction and so forth, and on the drawing board, or one possibility is the expansion of Wendell Cross and Bucks Hill. Would these boilers be appropriate, or would we, if we do add on to these 2 schools, would these boilers suffice?
Yeah, the issue or problem you have at those schools is they are, the heat is steam. It's not water. So if you do add on to it, I would recommend that the new section be a water plant, which is more efficient. And that if that does happen, then you're going to have a separate boiler for those wings that you add. So these boilers will still operate the main building that's there presently. So, and even if you did renovate it and you had enough money, renovate as new and did the entire school, I still have other schools I could take these boilers out and replace them because they're standard size. I've pretty much standardized them across the district, so we can use them actually in other schools.
Oh, okay, thanks. That's good news.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Commissioner Brown asked my question, so I'm all set.
Are you okay with the answer?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Anyone else? Okay, moving on now to number 8. Committee on Finance requests approval of the Alliance District's School Buildings Grant Program application. Mr. Cross.
As you know, we've been asked to submit on approximately $2.6 million for work through this grant that is not normally covered under school building programs. This would be in the category of your expensed items. So we identified, obviously, on our list, paving, locker replacements, and tennis courts. Those are items that obviously have not been able to get enough funding through our normal capital appropriation requests. This will definitely make a huge impact on the district. Our intent is to get quite a bit of this work done over probably a 2-summer cycle. So we're very excited to hopefully move forward with these.
Okay, anything from the board on that? Commissioner Sweeney.
Mr. Cross, the improvements to Wilby North End and Crosby Wallace, are they tied to NEASC at all?
No.
No. As much as I love Wilby and North End and Crosby and Wallace, we've done a lot of work at all of the high schools and the complexes. And I really want to see us start pouring some money into our elementary schools. Many of them that are over 100 years old that we just can't seem to grasp a decent pool of money to make some good impact. So I hesitate, to spend this amount of money on tennis courts, quite frankly. I would rather see us take $795,000 and try to improve that basement area over at Driggs, or, some of the areas at Washington or Hopeville that are just in such bad shape. I think they're all improvements that can be done with an eye towards the future of some kind of a major renovation or renovate as new. I think we have expertise to make sure that those kind of things happen, but I really would rather see us plow more money, this type of money, into some of our elementary schools.
I think this type of grant, I think you ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers. So from my perspective, I appreciate all of that, but I'm simply being practical. What are my worst needs? What do I need to take care of? What are some of the things that are probably not likely to get taken care of? And also, there's a short, this grant, we had a very short time to put something together. Hopefully there's other cycles down the road. That type of activity you're talking to takes a lot more planning, detailing, engineering, and that sort of thing. This doesn't take a lot. So we can accomplish those things rather quickly. And, I don't disagree that, we could certainly spread out a lot of different boats, but, somebody has to decide which ones. I did my best, looking at it practically. And I still think that this would be something that would make a big impact on this district.
Anyone else? Commissioner Brown.
Just building on this conversation, and I have no problem with this allocation at this point, but I think we're all concerned with kind of like, what is the picture? What do we really need to bring our schools up to a standard we can all be proud of? Because as you're hearing, a lot of our older schools, our elementary schools especially, they really are, they're tried and true. So I'm just wondering, and I think I've seen kind of like a wish list and kind of a plan, but maybe it's time to dust that off and remind us of what are some of the longer-term projects that we really need to be looking at.
I totally agree with you, but, the long-term plan probably has to be clearer in order to make some of those decisions.
Right.
And from my perspective, if you look at, say, a Driggs or any of those schools similar to that, it just makes sense to me that you're going to have to eventually look at a renovate as new if that building is going to be retained in the district. Throwing, and this is 2.6. It sounds like a lot of money, but when you go into an old building like that and you try to rehab it, that's used up very quickly. So from my perspective, utilizing state facility grant money to go in and really straighten out a building such as Driggs is probably appropriate. Whereas this type of money is really to hit all of those nagging expense items that I cannot get dollars for. And these are the things that fall under that category.
No, and I really appreciate that and understand that, but I guess, given the scheme of things, renovate to new, I'd like to understand more what it would cost to renovate to new some of the schools that we're dealing with. And I realize that people don't like to talk about money, and we don't like to talk about it, but I think we're going to pay now or pay later. The longer we postpone even the renovation to new for a Driggs or a Walsh or a Hopeville or a Generali, I mean, I could list them all. They all need it. I really think we got to start doing something. We keep postponing it. I don't think we've had a renovation to new that I'm aware of recently, have we?
No. No, we've had additions in new
Right.
schools.
So I guess maybe this is for another workshop, but maybe we can start working on it.
I totally agree with you.
Okay, maybe building committee is a place for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, moving on then to item number, thank you, Mr. Cross, you're done, I believe. Moving on to number 9, Committee on Policy, request approval of revisions to the school attire policy, number 5132, and that would be Mr. Walston.
Good evening, President Stengo, Board of Education. So coming to you this evening to the request to revise the school attire policy is really response to parents and students in our community that have stated that our original policy was too rigid. And so we have had conversations with principals, teachers, parents, and asked to relax the policy in a way that still doesn't necessarily impact the spirit of the policy, but find more options other than the fleece option that we had provided in the initial one. And so the revised policy that we are recommending calls for an optional solid colored, non-hooded black or Waterbury Public School colored sweater, vest, suit jacket, or fleece style top may be worn over a new dress code top. And so that is a recommendation we're bringing forward this evening.
Okay, you didn't bring your little box of all the sweaters and things.
I did not, President Stengo.
All right. Any questions or comments from the panel here, from the board? Commissioner Brown?
I just want to thank you because I know we had a very good discussion at our policy committee meeting, and I think this is very clearly written, and I think it says what we all talked about. We didn't want to go too broadly. We wanted to confine it. So I think this will work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Anyone else? Vice President Harvey?
Yes, I too want to thank you. In fact, I was at the Title I, I'm not going to say dinner, but the meeting, thank you. And there were 2 parent liaisons that addressed this issue, this particular issue, and I told them, I said, we're going to alter it, and they were very, very happy to hear that. So I thank you for the promptness of addressing this. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Just for clarity, Mr. Wilson, if you have a fleece of the color of the school and all, and it really, and I'm picturing because I have one, it zips way up to your neck. The student's still required to have the standard dress code shirt underneath that fleece?
Yes, President. Absolutely.
Right, okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to superintendent's report. And it's a briefing of the state accountability systems. It's lined up for Blueprint for Change, Goal 2, Objective 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Goal 3, Objective 1, 4, and Goal 4. And we have Mr. Schwartz, Mrs. Boehm, Mrs. Baker, Mr. Walston.
Good evening. So tonight, as you recall, this was a presentation we were going to deliver to the board 2 weeks ago, and so tonight we want to go in depth as much as we can for you, answer any questions we have on what I think is a new and exciting accountability system from the state. If you recall, the accountability in the past is simply one measure, CMTs. And so we're happy to see a change at the state level and an acceptance at the federal level of the new accountability system for how districts and schools will be held accountable. Connecticut was approved for a 3-year renewal on August 6, 2015. One of the key enhancements in this renewal is a more holistic, multi-factor district and school accountability model. This next generation system was developed with extensive feedback from district and school leaders, Connecticut educators, state and national experts, department staff, and many others. This is a graphic that clearly displays how the accountability system fits into the State Board of Education vision under their 3 ambitious goals, which are to improve overall academic achievement and reduce academic achievement gaps, produce college and career-ready graduates, and prepare well-rounded, civically engaged students. You can see the accountability measures below each goal, some that are still to be determined, and others that we will go into more depth right now. This chart displays the accountability system. It clearly defines elementary, middle, high, and for those schools that are middle high, such as Williams 612. And as you notice, academic achievement, academic growth, which is new, and I'm excited to talk about that. Attendance and chronic absenteeism, so the work that we've been doing in that now will be held accountable to. Preparation for college and career readiness, graduation on track at 9th grade, actual graduation cohort numbers, post-secondary entrance, physical fitness, and arts access. You could see the total possible points at the bottom of the chart, and we'll go into depth on each one of those. So on the first measure, academic achievement, one thing that I want to point out is it's subject performance in ELA, math, and science. ELA and math being Smarter Balance, and science being capped. And we have this CMT for the science in the younger grades, 5th and 8th. We also have SAT starting this year as well. And if you see year 1, academic achievement is worth 300 points. And for years 2 and 3 and moving on, it will be worth only 150 points. The reason being is that in year 1, you'll notice in indicator 2, you can't measure growth in year 1. So it's weighted a little bit more in year 1, and then in year 2, it drops back down to 150 points. Okay. So again, as I stated, academic growth, this is exciting because we're actually measuring on how well our students perform and grow, not just on a static measure. And so year 1, obviously we can't measure growth, but year 2, what I like about it is year 2, 2 and 3, growth is worth 200 points versus just a static score of 150 points of how students perform. So growth is actually being measured and given more weight than the actual scores. This is a percentage of students in grades 4 through 8 meeting growth targets, half with ELA, half in math, all students and students in high need subgroups. And as you can see, this is based on the vertical scale score. If you recall, Tara had this list of vertical scale scores in Smarter Balanced from 2 weeks ago. And so it's based on growth on the vertical scale score. Distinct points are awarded for subgroup growth as well.
As Darren spoke to regarding the academic growth indicator 1 and 2, we have already begun working and preparing for these indicators to be implemented. So because we have this very clear district alignment with our district improvement plan, the blueprint for change, and the ILDs also have prepared a improvement plan, which the schools then model their school improvement plan. So we have this very clear linear line between us that the goals are all the same for all of us as we're moving forward. The action plans as we're moving forward for academic growth indicator 1 and 2 are currently, just to open this year, we had trained all of the administrators in the blueprint for change and the ILD improvement plan, embedding each of these indicators currently into their school improvement plan. So although they may not be tabulated this year, we're beginning the work this year on how to prepare and what to do for them. From that training, we've begun in all of our schools internal focus walks on a weekly basis as ILDs are in buildings. We're meeting with administrative teams and actually moving into classrooms. This year, the internal focus walks have taken a very teaching approach, teacher-centered approach, in that when we meet, the supervisors prepare their coaches. Those coaches live in each of these buildings. The coaches do what's called an administrator debrief. They meet once a week, explain to the administrators, these are the adult actions that were discussed in the data team and that you should see in classrooms, and then these are the student outcomes we should see. After we do the debrief, the team goes out and does a walk of anywhere from 3 to 5 classrooms and actually looks for those adult strategies. Upon completion of that, when we meet as an administrative team, the administrators then get to meet with the teachers afterwards and talk about some of the things that they've seen that were actually producing growth. The coaches are trained by the supervisors, so the nice part is we're having this very clear alignment on what we should see. The house principals and the elementary principals, everybody's currently aligned as an administrator to a subject, a content area. So as we do monthly PD for the teachers and for the coaches, and the coaches are delivering this PD, the administrators are also attending those professional developments. Again, we're enhancing our adult strategy so we know what to look for, what is good adult strategies and student outcome. There's also 8th to 9th grade vertical alignment division focus walks, where we're beginning to look at what's going on in 8th grade and 9th grade as an administrative team. So we begin to see the high school staff takes a look at the 8th grade teaching and seeing what are we doing to prepare them. As well, we go up as 8th grade staff and go look at the 9th grade staff. We've done the debriefs, the administrative alignment. The instructional data teams are happening weekly. The supervisors are working rigorously, which you saw 2 weeks ago, in coaching their coaches so that every week when they're in data teams, they're meeting and helping teachers plan those lessons in addition to going in and doing what's called coaching cycles, helping the teachers. Ms. Boehm is going to speak to the visits currently that the testing and research department is doing along with the directors when we go in to meet with the schools and actually talk about what are these numbers, where do we need to get to, and what does that translate to in terms of students.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. And I will say before I start this, thank you to Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Sweeney for your little push for elementary schools, because we need every bit we can. So just to take it off, I started about 3 weeks ago going out with Mrs. Battistoni to all of the elementary schools. And we come packing all of our statistics and the data that she is so well known for. We go in and meet with the principal. Very often it will be, if there's a math coach or a reading facilitator in the building, we come and meet with them too, and with the vice principal. We go over every single bit of the scores. We start going out with the DIRG, what our comparison was with the DIRG. We then go what the comparison is within the district. Then we go to the grade level, into the teacher, and then into the student. It's amazing what you can, really fine tune and really, really go down to the specific with them. And this, to me, is the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. When we do leave, I will say most of the people look like a deer in headlights, but I say, go home, process it for a while, and then what I've been doing with a few of my schools, and I want to continue it if time allows, I'm going then into one of their common planning times. I look at where a grade that might be a little less successful. As we all know, the 4th grade scores, were very good. So it's giving a lot of hope, as I say to our 5th grade teachers now, it's giving you a lot of hope to have these children coming along. Remembering that this is a baseline, all right? These results are baseline. And we will go over their conversion charts. There is every kind of statistics that you could think of. And we will go over each and every part of that with them, just to show them, if we look at the scores, if we're between levels, before you used to get so many points, level 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, now we can get points within those levels. So if you're a high level 1, you're going to be able just a few more points and you can move that child into a 2 and so on all the way up the levels. It's actually professional development at the best. It's a small group that we meet with so that there's a lot of verbiage going on and no one's embarrassed. No one, if a teacher will start or a principal will start saying something, we just tell them that this is what's going on in every building. And they feel very free to speak to us about it. We also go into the chronic absenteeism, and we look at their agendas for their meetings, their minutes, and what is going on, and comparing them with the data that they had from last year at this time. Also with the 4th grade PE scores for the assessments that they have there. Those are, what I say, that those are not points that we're going to get for achievement. Those are in other areas. So they're very excited of being able to, you can score anywhere between a 0 and 50 extra points in the PE area. So it's a lot for everyone to absorb, but it's really exciting. It's very, very exciting, and they have a path. And as Ms. Baker said, that everything is all going to be aligned. And Mrs. Battistoni will also be going up to the middle and the high school level and working with the team the same way.
Thank you, and I'm sure some of you are wondering what would qualify as high needs. I just want to make sure that high needs group is classified as low-income English learners and students with disabilities. Indicator 3 is just the participation rate, and so does not contribute to our accountability index, but will impact if we have less than 95% of our students take the Smarter Balanced Assessment or CMT or CAP or SAT, and I was happy to say that we were higher than 95% last year, and anticipate that happening again. Indicator 4 is chronic absenteeism. I think we presented a few times on this. Again, we can max points are 50 points. Full points are awarded if chronic absenteeism rate is 5% or lower. No points are awarded if chronic absenteeism rate is 30% or greater. And this is something that we set the foundation for last year. We have a much more strategic plan moving into this year. Kevin, were you going to talk more about that? Okay. So,
The chronic absenteeism teams, as you saw tonight with the North End's process, the idea is this is an operationalized process throughout the district. This is not just happening at North End Middle School. This is happening every 2 weeks in every elementary, every middle, and every high. That chronic absenteeism team is comprised of those prevention specialist team that we talked about here at North End. They talk about chronic absenteeism due to discipline in addition to true truancy. So that team is mobilized and operationalized. August PD, all the administrators were trained. In the beginning of this year, all directors went into the schools and actually did that same training with the teams, talked about the membership of who's on the team. Every school has its own unique life to it, and they do it in a little bit different way, but every participatory member is the same. And they are speaking to an individual student basis every single week when they meet.
and we know that chronic absenteeism reach out is key. It's about reaching out to families, reaching out to community. And so I'm also happy to say that the team has been reaching out. We've presented once at the NAACP. We look forward to continuing that work with the NAACP. We've also have been in contact with Bridge to Success and working closely with them about how we can leverage our community partners for chronic absenteeism, because we, now that we have our structures down in the schools, it's really about now as a community, how can we promote regular attendance. Preparation for post-secondary and career readiness coursework. Now, this is percentage of students in grades 11 and 12 participating in at least one of the following during high school. 2 courses in AP, IB with International Baccalaureate, dual enrollment, or 2 courses in one of the 7 CTE categories, or 2 workplace experience courses in any area.
So the new accountability measure is heavy high school. And so really 5 through the next number of slides. Mr. Swartz and I are probably going back and forth with the microphone. Holistically, I think the state has done a great job with the accountability model. It's, number one, it acknowledges the things that we're already doing, but then at the same time, it's reminding us of the work that we should be doing. And so our principals are doing a lot of this good work. And so I think because of that, we're going to do well in some of these areas, but then there are some areas we need to get better at. And as Michelle pointed out earlier, in anticipation of the new accountability measures, we sat down, all of us sat down this summer and ensured that our strategies and our practices were aligned with the accountability measure 1, and then 2, making sure we were informing the principals of the expectations for this school year and beyond. So just let me share an example of how this is impacting our practices and our strategies in school and beginning to make us think differently. So for one, just talking about implementing recommendations from College Board and AP Potential. So last year was the first time we received a report from College Board via the state. And AP Potential really calls upon us to look at all of the AP scores from the prior year. And so College Board says, all of these students did this well on AP. College Board will also give us the scores from all of our PSAT reports and say your kids also did really well on PSAT. And then they will ask the question, are they in AP classes? Are they in AP classes in 11th grade? Are they in AP classes in the 12th grade? And so this is immediately, the principals and I, we had this conversation, make sure, looking at kids on this list, where our students had 3s and 4s, or on PSATs, our kids did really well on PSATs, and these served as predictors of doing really well in AP. However, we may not have considered those same students for AP. So we have to make sure, because we get points for participation, and again, this is looking at our practice differently, these are some strategies we may not have considered when placing students in AP courses. And so there's a participation score, but then if our kids get 3 or higher, then we also get more points. And so I think we also need to be a little bit more strategic on how we're preparing our students in AP. You know, we look at SAT, well now we're looking at SAT, but you know, in years prior it's Smarter Balance, and then it was CMTs. But now that the work is more aligned, SAT, AP, I think we can be even more focused on getting our students ready to pass AP exams and pass SAT exams. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Okay. So this one also, and you know, right now we do not offer IB in our district, but we certainly offer an AP in our district, and this speaks to proficiency. And so if our students have a 3 or higher, we're going to get more and more points toward the 50 points. Also SAT, so there's going to be a composite score expectation of 1550. And so nationally, the numbers are around 1490. In the state of Connecticut, they're 1525. And so we're gonna have our work cut out for us, because we're gonna have more participants than ever. And so we will have that baseline score. And then from that baseline score, we will know what we're working with as a district. But the good thing is, again, we're all aligned. There's no CMT, there's no capped that we have to worry about. We don't have to worry about Smarter Balance. It's one exam, the same exam that's gonna serve as an entrance exam to college. is the same exam we should be preparing, you know, every day for as part of daily instruction. Ready to. So, going back to Michelle's comment about aligning our goals and our improvement plan with the school's improvement plan and the principal's goals, our evaluation is, or my evaluation is aligned with Indicator 7 and Indicator 8. My principal's evaluation is aligned with Indicator 7 and Indicator 8. And so I'm happy and proud to say we had started this work last year. And the good thing is, I think we even, as a district and as principals and ILD for myself, we're even more accountable to the work now. But we've placed a significant emphasis on ninth graders as a district. As we all know, we certainly place an emphasis on that in our schools. And I think our principals, because of this, are even more strategic than ever. And of course, throughout this work, we're also continuing to find ways to leverage Gear Up to help our kids get through ninth grade successfully. And again, because of the research said if they make it through ninth grade, it's one of the strongest indicators for graduation. And so we make sure we set ambitious goals at the beginning of the year to get as many ninth graders to the 10th grade as possible. Right. And so, no different from the ninth grade on track. This is for straight graduation, and of course, this is by cohort. And so students who enter in the ninth grade, for example, this year, they would be expected to graduate in 4 years, and that's the cohort, that would be the control group that we would follow over the next 4 years. And then we would identify based on how many, so if we get 94% or above, we would get the full 100, and then there's actually a conversion chart, and the numbers go back from there as it relates to the conversion chart. And so then there's a 6-year adjusted cohort graduation rate, and this is for students with IEPs. And so of course, they have up to 6 years. Actually, it could be more than 6 years. But the state has an accountability report of 6 years for those students. And so at the same time, while we are monitoring our 4-year cohort, we will now be monitoring, again, we're doing things a little bit differently, whereas before we may have, of course, if a student has an IEP that calls upon them to stay in school beyond the 6 years, we will have to honor that. But if not, we'll be working really hard to make sure all of our students with IEPs are also graduating within the 4 to 6 year cohort rate. And then this is very different from us, and I think this calls upon us again to look at our work differently and monitor our work even more. Mr. Swartz, the ILDs, and I, we all went to state meetings last year, and then they have breakout sessions. And so at the state, they're able to follow every single one of our students when they leave our district and leave high school. And so they come back to us with a report and say, this is how many of your students went to 2-year schools, went to 4-year schools. And so there's an expectation from us to increase that number. And so one of the things that we will be looking to do this year, one is working with our supervisor of guidance and making sure we're implementing developmental guidance plan with fidelity, but also monitoring quarterly implementation of Naviance. And so that will be a little different from what we've done in the past. But also plan and implement a district-wide college fair. I think that's something that we should be looking to do and make sure, number one, our local colleges are at the table, and number one, try to get them involved. But I think as we continue to try to find, ensure access for all of our students taking SATs, I think it's appropriate for us to also make sure they have access to all of the colleges, because not all of our students are able to make these trips and go on college visits. So the guidance supervisor and I, these conversations we had last year, and I'm hoping by next year this is something that we can realize.
So physical fitness, again, this is a new flexible accountability system, so we were excited to see physical fitness to be added to this. Ultimate target is 75% for students meeting all 4 areas of the Connecticut Physical Fitness Assessment. This is for grades 4, 6, 8, and 10. And we always have great participation rates for our physical fitness assessment. Joe Gorman was very happy to see this on the accountability measures. So were some of our community partners. Jim O'Rourke at the Y was happy to see this. And so again, reaching out to our community partners to help us achieve these goals. And finally, arts access. One of the things that I'm looking into is if this has to be a course during the day, or is this something, again, that we can use our community as a way to leverage this for students in grades 9 through 12 participating in at least one dance, theater, music, or visual arts course in the school year. Many of our community partners would love to jump at the chance to be able to provide some of these courses after school, but it's something that I have to reach out to the State Department and see if that will be something that they will honor. It'd be a great way for us to make additional connections. To go over school classification, there's 5 categories per state law, and it's by top quartile is category 1. Category 2 is the 2 middle quartiles. Category 3 is the bottom quartile. Category 4 and 5 are new turnaround or focus schools or existing turnaround focus schools. And you can see the definition on the right. Based on the turnaround is based on the bottom 5% of eligible points earned. And for a focus school, has the lowest academic achievement or grad rate for the high school needs subgroup statewide, selected from the bottom 3 quartiles. It includes schools with the lowest high needs subgroup index scores, as well as high schools with 6-year graduation rate for the high school needs subgroup, high needs subgroup. That is less than 70%. So the classifications are going to look slightly different throughout the years, and you can see that we will not be notified of schools in Waterbury until January 31st, 2016, if they will be identified as focus or turnaround schools, according to the new plan. Any questions?
Okay, now it's time for comments and questions. Commissioner Brown.
Yes, wow, this is very, very exciting, I think, very challenging as well. I just had a question. How is Connecticut's new accountability system comparable to other states? Do we have a sense as to where other states are, or is this being rolled out nationally, or?
It's not, I know it's not being rolled out nationally, but I'm not quite sure what other states are implementing. From my sense, from the way the State Department was not only excited, but also their demeanor when they presented to us. They were very excited and somewhat surprised on the federal government accepting this plan, because it is a little bit outside the box.
Oh, yeah.
And so I believe that we are probably one of few states that have this breadth of accountability, and that was my sense, but I can certainly send an email to the state and request some information on that.
Well, I was just curious because as our students will be going into, colleges outside of Connecticut and so forth, so I was just curious as to how this would impact kind of their standing or whatever outside of it. Another question. In terms of keeping track of all this, how are we keeping track of all this data? It seems like a big job.
It's one of the first things we asked. So obviously working closely with the CTC department, the ILDs have done a fantastic job meeting with Will Zuda over and over and over again, trying to get the systems in place to track the data. And so some of this data was new tracking for us.
Yeah.
But it's something that we were excited to grapple with and get a hold of. And so CTC has been great at responding to our requests.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Tom Van Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you. Expectations are pretty high through these numbers, which always puts a city district at a disadvantage. So I wonder who puts these together sometimes. Work experience has an equal value to 2 AP courses. Have we defined work experience?
Is that indicator 5, Commissioner?
Yes, it was 5.
So that should be CTE, as in the CTE work experience, so all of our courses that are, business, technology, and so, but work experience as in CTE work experiences like internships or our kids that are in school and then they can go out and they have opportunities. I'm trying to think what it's called right now. Yeah, so we'll call it internships for right now. But it's aligned with that work during school day, not something after school.
Okay. And I certainly know WCA has those opportunities as part of a regular curriculum.
Yes, and some of our other high schools do as well, not as.
What other high schools and what is it that we're offering?
So like, for example, like Allied Health,
Right.
our kids have meaningful work experiences that way. So that just as an example.
So that sounds like something we need to grow, to give at least the opportunity. Whether kids take advantage of it or not, it's another thing. But, because I would think Kerr Academy has an advantage over the other schools in that regard.
Agreed.
Just because of the nature of what they do there and the support they're getting. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on, because I like the idea. I'm not sure how much work experience truly equals 2 AP classes. I'm struggling with that, unless you guys want to help me with that. But it would have to be some pretty good work experience equal to AP classes. So hopefully we're keeping our eye on that.
Right, and I think the idea is for a student who may or may not be college bound, but they might, however, they may be in early childhood, class, and so we can still find opportunities to award credit for that as well. And the good thing is we do have a couple of schools with the early childhood as well. But your point's well taken. This is an opportunity, again, to begin to think about growing more programs in that fashion so we can find these opportunities for our kids.
Even early childhood, I in the big picture in my brain, I think of that all as allied health in a way. Maybe it's not officially categorized as that. So those opportunities are right there in front of us.
Right.
But that's, in a way, that's a limited population. I think this is really going to have to grow to make that a true opportunity for our students. I don't think that opportunity is really there right now.
No, it's not.
We may put it on paper, but I don't think that opportunity is really there. I didn't write down which indicator this was, but we're talking about a 94% target for ninth graders to complete high school in 4 years, which there's my 95%ers again. Do we have a target right now, other than the obvious 100%?
Right. So our high schools or our comprehensives are around 70, 71 the last couple of years. And then, career and WAMs are in the mid to high 80s. And so if we go comprehensives, we probably want to get to at least 75. And then if we can be really aggressive with interventions, then perhaps 80, but I think 75 would be a reasonable start. But then WAMs and Career Academy could certainly be a lot more aggressive with those two.
Again, back to the numbers and speaking to a inner city district, I
Agreed.
think once again we've been left at the dock. 75% attending college after 4 years of high school. I think that's a good number, actually, because I don't think much higher than that is a good expectation. There's some, myself included, that it would have been a bad decision to the September after graduation to go off to college. So I'm not. I think that's a pretty good number to target. I like that, but it's still something to watch for, because not all kids are ready. That doesn't mean that someday they're not going to go to college.
Right.
I think we still need to put all that information in front of them. But I think that's a good number. That's one number I did like here. Number 11, I remember to write down a number that time. Physical fitness. And I think as I spoke, and I didn't write it down, I think it may go also to 12 for the arts. In this case, though, does being part of an athletic team count towards this?
No.
Why would it not?
It's just a score on a proficiency exam, so the state will actually have a proficiency exam for PE, and that's...
So even if we have the guy that's leading running back in the city, in the state, he still has to run between some cones to get these points?
And we'll need him to do a good job on that proficiency test.
Okay, make sure he comes to school that day?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I was going to follow it up with the same for the arts. I mean, and I'm glad we said that could be something we may really need to think outside of school, just because of what's offered, right? There's a lot of kids that do leave our school and go into theater groups, dance, certainly dance groups, right? A lot of dance groups. Does that have any potential to get a credit towards that when they do it on the outside of the school building?
I would like an answer to that. I mean, we have church groups, choir groups students go to, so, I mean, they should be, in my mind, getting something for that, according to this, because it's not about, in my mind, it's not about the actual seat time, it's about the experience.
It's about the whole person.
Correct.
Right.
And I think that's what they're trying to do, and I'm sure this will change over the next few years. So I'm looking forward to a response from the State Department on that. Right now, it says course, so I'm assuming no for right now, but it's something that I would like to keep pushing on.
To go back to one, and then I'll be finished, because it's the same question I pretty much asked about going off to college in 4 years. What percentage of our kids actually do go right off to college after 4 years?
We'll have to get back to you on that, Commissioner.
Okay. And would that include, would post-education, if we called it that as opposed to college, would it include things like the armed services?
I have seen other accountability systems that do include armed services, and they give students 2 years to go to post-secondary. I think there's a report that actually measures that in the state, but this accountability system, it is not written into this system.
And again, you're reporting things that are being flown down to us, so I get that. But I certainly have a lot of questions for the state folks who put some of this together. Because I really don't, and I don't want to criticize because we don't know what their thinking was or what they were up against. But I'm struggling with how some of this does talk to an inner city district. I really am. It's a different conversation if we're 10 miles outside of here. But so I hope they realize that and make some appropriate changes over time. These are great goals to strive for, but I also at the same time don't want someone else that doesn't understand Waterbury creating us to fail something. And there's a little bit, not to be harsh on it, but there's a little bit in this that I think they're creating us to be in a fail mode, only because of numbers. Not that we're failing our students, but I think to strive for some of these numbers, it needs a little more thinking, I think. But I appreciate you bringing it to us, and it's good information, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Commissioner Sweeney?
On indicator 7, the adjusted graduation rate, and probably applies to the 6-year adjusted cohort as well. Are they allowing us to count adult education? Because they have not, the state has not counted that in the past.
No, Commissioner. Adult ed will not count toward the accountability.
We need to push on that again.
Okay, all set, Commissioner? Anyone else? Okay, that's it then. Thank you. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that as we go on. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Committee of the Whole requests approval of the Board of Education's 2016 meeting schedule, and that is in your backup on the computer. And just as a little explanation, I think you would know it by now, but bylaws dictate that our Board of Education meetings and workshops are held on the 1st and 3rd of each month. And those meetings are held and are set blindly, and they're simply set following the calendar, irregardless of holidays or whatever reasons. The workshop locations are set on a rotation of visits year to year to various schools. Now, we're going to need some flexibility, and that will come when one meeting conflicts with a holiday or other events yet to be even known. So I want to give you a heads up on possible calendar changes going forward, which we will discuss on further later. One of them would be the CAVE Delegate Assembly is in November. It's on a Thursday, so that may require changing that meeting to a Wednesday. Thanksgiving comes on a Thursday. That will require changing that meeting probably to the Tuesday. There will be no meeting, obviously, on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, as that's per normal. We've done that for 100 years. Also, school vacations may require a change in the meeting date. So we will handle those as they come up on an ongoing basis. Is there any questions on that? Commissioner Sweeney?
November 3rd is Election Day. November 3rd is Election Day.
But that's not a Thursday.
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday. Why do we have it marked to this? November 3rd is the Thursday.
No, it's definitely a Tuesday. The 5th is.
Oh, next year's, okay. Sorry, apologize.
Well,
I'm good.
if it was, it would be interesting to have a meeting anyway. Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, then moving on. The next agenda items are 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 16A, all are regarding field trip requests. I'm going to go through them just really quickly for the record. Committee on Curriculum request permission be granted to Bob Haxey of Wilby to take 48 students to Boston, Lexington, and Concord from November 1st through the 6th to visit various sites. 13, request permission be granted to Anita Wilkins of Wilby to take 1 chaperone and 20 students to Paris, France on April 15th through the 21st of 2016 to visit the International Culinary Institute and various sites. Item 14, request permission be granted to Robin Hickok of Kennedy to take 50 students to Salem, Mass. On October 23rd, 2015 to visit the Witch Dungeon Museum and Town of Salem. Item 15, Committee on Curriculum, request permission be granted to Luann Rosin Capalupo of Kennedy to take 50 students to New York to visit the Lower East Side Tenement Museum. 16, request permission be granted to Kyle Andrush of WAMS to take 1 chaperone and 18 students to Peru. And you have a complete itinerary in your backup. 16A is request permission of Carrie Coyle of Crosby to take 50 students to Salem, Mass. On October 23rd. And all those are aligned with Blueprint for Change, Goal 2, Objective 1. Anyone have any questions on that? We can get Mr. Schwartz. Are we okay? Okay, we're okay then. I'm moving on now to Superintendent's note, Committee on School Facilities and Grounds. That's 17. Use of school facilities by school organizations and/or city departments. And 18 is Committee on School Facilities and Grounds, use of school facilities by outside organizations and/or waiver request. Okay, seeing nothing on that.
There is.
Now.
There is.
Yes, Vice President Harvey?
Thank you. I'm trying to get to it, but I know I did read it prior to our meeting. There was a notification to us in regards to Gilmartin School. I think this is that. And there was permission for an after-school program, an agreement with the principal and Zim Nation, and I just wanted to get some more information on that.
Well, Mr. Miller's not here, but Dr. Can you respond to that, or?
Actually, I'll send it out in an email.
Okay.
Okay. What I'm looking for is just more information, and what is in the agreement that was entered into? Is it financial? What is it? Okay, just a little bit more detail.
All right, anything else on that? Okay, then, moving on now to superintendent's notification to the board, and there's an addition in hard copy that was handed out to you tonight. Does anyone have any questions for the superintendent on notification? All right, seeing none then, moving on. I will call on Commissioner Sweeney for a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to add an additional executive session for discussion of a pending legal matter concerning a grievance arbitration filed by SAW.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to go into executive session, which is right down in that room on the left.
Mr. President,
And,
that was a motion to add, so I still have to read the two.
oh, okay. Okay,
Attorney wants it that way.
Okay.
Makes a motion to add.
Yeah.
all right. So we had a motion
So
to add.
second.
We had it second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Motion passes. We are adding that agenda item.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so motion to convene an executive session. 2 items. Discussion concerning the appointment, employment, and performance evaluation, health, or dismissal of a public officer or employee. And a session for discussion of a pending legal matter concerning a grievance arbitration filed by SAW.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will go to that room on the left, and from that point, we will adjourn. So we are done here. Thank you, everyone.
Where are we going? Charles, where are we going?
It's right there halfway down
Okay, all right.
on the left.